What's up, Falcons Nation? It's your boy Jew coming at you with another Atlanta Falcons video. As always, rise up, Falcons Nation. I just want to do a quick video today. This video is going to be about why our Atlanta Falcons right now are struggling. And I have a couple of different reasons. I've been analyzing this team through the first 6 or 7 weeks of this season, or really 5 weeks of the season, because we played 5 games so far. We're 1-4. We're going into week 6, and I have a couple reasons why I believe this team is struggling. First off, coming into this season, we believe that we were Super Bowl contenders. I still think that we still have a chance at making a playoff run, but it's going to take a couple different changes. But I've been seeing a lot of videos coming out. I've seen a lot of our Atlanta Falcons fan base saying that they want Dan Quinn fired. They want Matt Ryan fired. They want to get rid of all the players. They're saying that all the players suck and all this and that. It's a couple things that I want to get into in this video. First off, I don't believe that the Atlanta Falcons, our team as a whole, sucks. I do believe that there's talent on this team, but I think that we've kind of overplayed our cards or overplayed our hand. If you play cards, we may have put too much stock in some of the players that were kept on this team. So first, I want to tackle the defense, because we know that Dan Quinn is a defensive coach. He was in Seattle with the Seahawks when they had the #1 defense, when they had the Legion of Boom, and when they won the Super Bowl. So a couple things that I want to get into really quick. First thing, if you remember the year that we went to the Super Bowl, 2016, we had a lot of different players that are not on this team anymore, that I feel that a lot of the Atlanta Falcons fans and the media are forgetting that this isn't the same team that went to the Super Bowl. It is a lot of key pieces that were on the team that went to the Super Bowl, but what we're failing to realize is this defense so far doesn't have the role players that help that Atlanta Falcons team get to the Super Bowl. And what I mean by that is, if you think back to the Super Bowl team of players that are not on this team, but that were good role players that did their jobs, veteran players such as Dwight Freeney, who's a Hall of Fame. I don't think he's been inducted into the Hall of Fame yet, but he's definitely Hall of Fame worthy. As a defensive end and pass rusher, he did a great job of helping Vic Beasley and the young guys on the line get better. Jonathan Babineau, he was a leader on the defense for a long period of time. He was a nose tackle. He was very good at getting in the backfield, very good at stopping the run. Rasheed Hageman, he's not on this team anymore. He was a good space eater. He did his job as far as clogging up the hole and stopping the run. Courtney Upshaw, he's not on this team anymore. He was another guy that was a space eater, good at stopping the run, and he was able to play on the outside and set the edge against the run. He played for the Baltimore Ravens for a long period of time. In our secondary, this is where I feel like the biggest issue with this new Atlanta Falcons team, with our current 2019-2020 team. This is where the biggest changes came in, because with our linebackers, we pretty much have the same linebackers. Deion Jones, Devondre Campbell, the year we went to the Super Bowl, were rookies at the time, but we also had good role players on that team. We had Paul Warlow. A lot of people disliked him. He was not a good player in coverage, but he was a good player as far as making tackles. He had a couple seasons of over 100 tackles for the Atlanta Falcons. Sean Weatherspoon, another guy that was a great player with the Atlanta Falcons in his early years, but he battled injuries. But he was on that Super Bowl team in 2016, so he did a good job. Him and Paul Warlow did a good job of mentoring Deion Jones, Devondre Campbell, getting them up to speed and ready to play. And they also, Paul Warlow was an excellent special teams player. In the secondary, we had Desmond Trufant, which we still have. We had Robert Alford. We had Jalen Collins out of LSU, the cornerback that dealt with substance abuse, where he kept failing drug tests. So that's the reason that he's not on the team anymore. We had to cut him. We had Keanu Neal in that year. He was a rookie. and we still had Ricardo Allen. So if you think back to that team, a lot of key players that were on that team are not currently on this roster, but we're assuming a lot of the Falcons fans, even myself, I fell into the trap of assuming, well, this is the same team because we still have Grady Jarrett, which I forgot to mention on the line. We still have Grady Jarrett. He was also on that Super Bowl team. He was also a rookie at that time, but he had Jonathan Babineau. So pretty much at every level of our defense, the year that we went to the Super Bowl, most of the core guys now that are on this team were rookies on that team, and they had excellent mentors in their meeting rooms, in their positions, as far as in their meeting room for each position. They had an excellent mentor and excellent coaches. So I feel like with this team, when I say we overplayed our hand, if you look at this team, what we did last year, we let go of Robert Alford at the end of the season last year. We cut him in the offseason, and we assumed that Isaiah Oliver, who was a rookie last year, would be like a plug-and-play guy where we could just put him right into the role and let him take over as the outside corner. Now, we all know if you watched the Falcons play last year, Isaiah Oliver didn't even start but I think 1 or 2 games when Robert Alford went out with a hamstring injury or ankle injury. He only played 2 games. So we really never got a real assessment of how good Isaiah Oliver is or was. We basically just threw him into the fire and assumed, okay, he'll be able to do Robert Alford's job. As many people, as I said in my other videos, hated on Robert Alford, talked about him getting penalties. I bet you a lot of you guys that were complaining about Robert Alford right now would rather have Robert Alford over Isaiah Oliver. And if you don't, you're smoking something, because I would, or you need to be drug tested, as Stephen A. Smith will say, because I would take Robert Alford back in a heartbeat over Isaiah Oliver. It's no disrespect to Isaiah Oliver. He's still a young player. He's still learning. I place the blame of this on Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff, because they cut Robert Alford without having a sure guy to take to take his spot. To me, you should never cut a player and assume another player can do that and can do that player's position unless they've already had snaps at that position. So we should never assume, okay, well, this guy can do this guy's job, but we've never seen him do it. And what I'm trying to say by that is, if you take the Patriots, for example, when they cut Drew Bledsoe, they had seen pretty much a full season or half a season with Tom Brady winning the Super Bowl. So they had a number of games where they could go back to and say, okay, we've seen Tom Brady. He's making strides. We believe that he could be the starter. So I'm not saying that in Isaiah Oliver's case that he had to prove that he was better than Robert Alford to take his spot, but he should have gotten more starts last year. If they knew that they possibly was going to let go of Robert Alford in the offseason, and they thought that because they drafted Isaiah Oliver to take his spot, to me last year would have been the time to give Isaiah Oliver time to play with the starters to see if he could hold his own. Because now you let go of a surefire, decent cornerback in Robert Alford. You let him walk. Not only did you let Robert Alford walk, but you let Brian Poole walk. So this is what I'm talking about when I say even I forgot about Brian Poole. I was just thinking, okay, we lost Isaiah. We lost Robert Alford. But it's not just Robert Alford that we lost. We lost Robert Alford and we lost Brian Poole. And where I feel like we missed Brian Poole at is Brian Poole was an excellent tackler. He was an excellent guy that we could blitz. We used him a lot in blitzing off, running cat blitzes off the edge. He was an excellent tackler, even in coverage when he was playing the nickel role. Because if you remember, when we let go of Brian Poole, DeMonte Casey, who last year played a totally different position, took over the nickel spot at corner, which he has never played cornerback in the NFL at all. DeMonte Casey, when he came in college, he was a cornerback. When he came to the Falcons, they changed his position from cornerback to safety last year. Now they moved him back to cornerback in the nickel spot. So I feel like with this team, a lot of things were done unknowingly, meaning we didn't know whether Casey could take over that position for Brian Poole, but we failed to re-sign Brian Poole, which Brian Poole was not asking for a lot of money. The Jets didn't pay Brian Poole that much money. I think they say he was asking for like $3 million or something like that. So we could have easily at least kept Brian Poole for one more year and put Casey out there occasionally if we wanted him to play the corner, the nickel corner spot. But a lot of these guys were just thrown in there. So I bring all of this up to say this. On a defense, a lot of us are complaining we just let a team score 53 points on us, and we look terrible on defense this year. Everybody wants to blame Dan Quinn, and I do put partial of the blame on Dan Quinn because some of the schemes that he's running and all of these moves that were made as far as cutting players and switching players around was his decision. Plus, it was his decision to fire pretty much all of the coordinators and the assistant coaches that were on the team, and he decided that he was going to take over the defense, which was fine with me because he's supposed to be a defensive guru. So if you're a defensive guru, I like that he said, I'm going to put it on me. I'm not going to blame it on somebody else. I'm going to go ahead and let these guys go, and I'm going to run my own defense. I can respect that. But what I can't respect is all of the players that we let go without knowing what we had in the background or in the backdrop. We didn't know how good Isaiah Oliver was going to be. We didn't know how well DeMonte Casey would play in the nickel spot. So we basically let go of two sure, decent starters on this roster in the secondary. So you might as well say we have a whole new secondary, because a lot of people keep saying that this is the secondary that went to the Super Bowl in 2016. No, it's not. This is basically a whole new secondary as far as the cornerbacks. And you might as well say it's a whole new secondary because Keanu Neal has been hurt for the last 2 seasons. If you remember the year right after the Super Bowl, 2016, we came back in 2017. In 2017, we had a solid year again. We made the playoffs. We beat the Rams in LA in the first round in the wild card game. And then we went up to Philly. We played Philly in the divisional round, and we lost in basically by like 6 points or something. Like, we lost in the red zone basically. So if you really want to judge Dan Quinn, to be honest and to be fair about it, I don't even count last year against Dan Quinn. And the reason I don't count last year against Dan Quinn is because if you think about it, the whole defense was injured last year. So I don't care if you had Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, who you had. If you lose every single player, all of your star players on the defense or one side of the ball like that, and really we lost players on both sides of the ball, because if you think about it, we had so many players on IR last year. We lost Deion Jones, we lost Keanu Neal, we lost Ricardo Allen, we lost Grady Jarrett for a period of time. Like, we lost 2 offensive linemen. Brandon Fusco got hurt for the season. Andy Levitre got hurt for the season. So we were just it was basically freaking the whole team was hurt, basically, is what I'm trying to say. The whole team was hurt. So you can't. Last year I give Dan Quinn a pass. This year I'm not going to necessarily give Dan Quinn a pass, but I do understand why Arthur Blank has respect for Dan Quinn, and he believes that Dan Quinn can turn it around, and he's giving Dan Quinn a longer leash than some of the fans are calling for, because Dan Quinn has proven that he's a decent head coach, and he's a decent defensive coordinator. The thing is, he has to have his players, and the thing is, I believe that we've, like I said, overplayed our hand with a lot of these players, because this defense is not the same 2016 Falcons that was in the Super Bowl. This is a totally different defense if we want to be honest about it. Half the players that are on this defense were not on that Super Bowl team, or a lot of the players. If you want to say a good percentage of these guys were not on that 2016 defense. So a lot of these guys that we gave credit to, and I did it too. It's not just you guys. I'm not just blaming it on Dan Quinn. I'm not just blaming it on you. I even fell for it because I was just assuming, okay, well, we kept the key pieces from that 2016 team, so we should be able to just plug and play a bunch of new guys and expect them to pick up right where Robert Alford, right where Brian Poole, right where Dwight Freeney, right where Jonathan Babineau, all of those players left off. Jalen Collins, a lot of these players, I'm telling y'all, were key pieces. Rasheed Hageman, Like we brung in so many new guys on this team. We got Allen Bailey that's a new guy. We got Tyler Davison that's a new guy up front. We got so many guys. Foye Aluakon, who was not on the team. DeMonte Casey was not on that Super Bowl team. It's so many guys that we have on this team that was not on that 2016 defense, but we're giving them credit for that 2016 team, and this is not the same team. This is a totally different defense. We don't have the Dwight Freeney anymore. We got Takk McKinley, and it's a huge difference between Dwight Freeney and Takk McKinley. Let's be real. And that's the problem that this team is having. If you look at this team, we're giving up way too many explosive plays. If you watch my previous videos, I've been saying this for a minute now. We're too small on our defensive line. We're too small. We need to get bigger players, and that's why I say half of the problem is Dan Quinn, because Dan Quinn brung in these smallish players, and because he wanted speed, and I understand that. And I have no problem with having speed. But when you only can have so much speed on one defense. And what I mean by that is I believe in having speed in certain positions. You need speed on the outside for your corners. You need speed at the linebacker position in the current NFL. But you don't need speed necessarily on your defensive line. You may need, if you want to have an edge rusher like Vic Beasley, I have no problem with Vic Beasley. I have no problem with Takk McKinley. But drafting John Kaminsky, that's unacceptable. Drafting Deidre Senat, the reason that I have a problem with some of these picks, let me tell you why I have a problem with these picks. I have a problem because I feel like you need to have a versatile defense. You don't need to have one of or three or four of the same type of players. And what I mean by that is Grady Jarrett is already a smaller nose tackle. So why would you go out and get Deidre Senat, to me, Deidre Senat and Grady Jarrett are both pretty much the same player. If you look at them, they're not far skill-wise, meaning Grady Jarrett is probably one of the best nose tackles in the game or defensive tackles in the game. But what I'm saying is if you look at their measurables, how tall they are, how short their arms are, they're pretty much the same player, around how much they weigh. I went and looked at the depth chart the other day just to see, because I wanted to see how much these guys weigh. A lot of these guys on our defensive line don't even weigh 300 pounds. A lot of these guys are like in the 280s, the 290s. Some are like the 250s. Like some of them are even smaller. Like Vic Beasley is only like he only weighs like 250 or something crazy like that. So a lot of these guys, when we're getting pushed around, like when we play teams like the Eagles that we play that have these huge, massive offensive lines, when we play the Colts, when we play the Titans, these teams that have massive offensive lines, we wonder why we're getting beat up by the run game and why we're getting pushed around. Because we don't have enough beef on this team. We need bigger guys on this defense. Like I said, I have no problem with having speed rushers, edge rushers like Vic Beasley on one side and Takk McKinley. I have no problem with having the lighter guys for rushing the passer. But I do have a problem with all of these light guys in the middle. Like Allen Bailey was not a good signing. And the reason I say Allen Bailey wasn't a good signing is because we needed a bigger guy to be in the middle. Last year when the New York Giants had Snacks Harrison on a trading block, we should have tried to pick him up. And the reason I say that, if you go look at the Detroit Lions right now, Snacks Harrison plays for the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are a very good defense. And one of the reasons they have a very good defense is because they do a good job at stuffing the run, and they have Snacks Harrison. He's an anchor on that defense. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they're the number one defense right now in stopping the rush. Why is that? Because they have a huge, massive defensive line. It starts up front with Fletcher Cox. You can't run on that team or it's harder to run on that team because they have those big guys up front. If you watch any of the teams that are good in the trenches and the teams that win in this league, they have beef in the trenches. New England, they have beef in the trenches. You can go all the way back to the days when they were winning Super Bowls back in the day when they had Richard Seymour and this big guys, Vince Wilfork. Dudes like that. For the Falcons, it's been a long time since we had a big dude. I mean, ever since we let go of Rashid Hageman, the 1 year after we let go of Rashid Hageman, we brought in Dantari Poe, and that was an excellent pickup. That's why we went back to the Super Bowl. I mean, not went back to the Super Bowl, but we had a chance of going back to the Super Bowl in 2017, and we made the playoffs in that year because Dantari Poe is a big guy. He's another guy who's an anchor in the middle. So in the offseason, we should have went after one of those guys that was there, like Gerald McCoy that was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He went to the Panthers. Look at the Panthers right now. They're 3-2. They playing with a backup. But what are the Panthers good at? Stopping the run. Why are they good in the trenches and stopping the run? Because they have big guys up front that can stop the run. They got big run stuffers. If you look at the Falcons roster, we don't have any really huge run stuffers. The only guy that we brought in to kind of help run stuff is Tyler Davison. And he was the only pickup that I thought was like a very they underestimate that pickup. Like he was a very quality pickup, I think, for the team because he is an actual run stuffer. But Allen Bailey, no, he's okay. He's an average player. I don't have no disrespect for Allen Bailey. I think he's a decent player, but he's not big enough to be playing in the middle. Allen Bailey can play on the outside as a defensive end, but he's really not like a quick guy. He's just big and good and setting the edge on the defensive side and stopping the run. But up front in the middle, we need some bigger guys. Like I said, if you look at any of these teams, the Eagles, Fletcher Cox, Malik Jackson. If you look at the year that the Jacksonville Jaguars was in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots, Calais Campbell, Malik Jackson was on that team. If you look at the Denver Broncos, the years that they were good, because now they're not good. But if you look at their team, a part of them not being as good as they were is they're not as good at stopping the run as they once were. They had Malik Jackson the year they went to the Super Bowl. They had Derek Wolfe in the middle, stuffing the run. They had big guys. That's what we're missing on this Atlanta Falcons team, y'all. We're missing a run stuffer. That's why in the draft, I wanted us to take somebody like a Christian Wilkins or one of the guys out of Alabama, the big guy that got picked up out of Alabama. I forget his name now, but he was like one of the top picks in the draft. But the reason he was a top pick in the draft is because he's a run stuffer. And in the NFL, one of the most important jobs to do, or one of the most important things to have on a team, is a big run stopper, a run stuffer, a guy that plays in the middle that can set the tone for you. If you don't have a big guy that can set the tone and you can't stop the run in this league, it's going to be hard to win games. And that's what's being proven this year with the Falcons. If you look at our previous teams that I mentioned, we had guys that could stuff the run. We had guys like a Corey Peters that could stuff the run, that was 330 pounds, that could stop the run. We had, like I said, we had Jonathan Babineau. We had Rashid Hageman. We had Courtney Upshaw, who were bigger guys. Now we're bringing in smaller guys. Like John Kaminsky is only like 200 and some pounds. He can't really play nose tackle. We're throwing him in there at nose tackle. It's been times we've thrown him in there at nose tackle. But if you want to be able to collapse the pocket and make it tough on quarterbacks, especially pocket quarterbacks, you have to be able to collapse the pocket. And the way that you collapse the pocket is having those bigger guys that can actually penetrate. It's not many smaller or smallish defensive linemen in the league right now that can penetrate. Grady Jarrett is not the regular. Like he's abnormal. Grady Jarrett is like a poor man's Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is like a freak of nature. Aaron Donald is not the average nose tackle. He's very undersized to play nose tackle. He's just fast, and he just has a crazy amount of strength. God's blessed him with the ability where he has superhuman strength, where he can break through the line and things of that nature at that smallest size. But most guys that are undersized are going to get pushed around on the defensive line. And that's one of the problems with this Atlanta Falcons defense. And that's why we're struggling on defense. Because if you look at all of these teams that we've lost to, like I mentioned, all of these AFC South teams, all of them AFC South teams are physical teams, and they have huge offensive lines. Like the Colts has a good offensive line and big offensive line. The Texans, they have a big offensive line. The Titans have a big offensive line, and pretty much all of those teams in the AFC South are running teams. They like to run the football, and that's why we struggle. Another thing that I've been seeing from a lot of Atlanta Falcons fans that I don't agree with is everybody wants to bash the secondary. But to be honest, if we had a better pass rush, our secondary wouldn't look as bad as it's looking, to be honest. If you watch last game, Deshaun Watson sat back there. He had all day to pass, and it was too easy for him. And yeah, I agree with some of the fans that are saying we need to play more aggressive defense. We need to blitz more. We need to press up on the receivers. I agree with that, and that's why I say that part of this is Dan Quinn's fault, because I don't agree with Dan Quinn's scheme that, okay, since we're going to sit back here in our soft zone coverage and expect our front three guys to get to the quarterback, because this is where I feel like the adjustments need to be made by Dan Quinn. If I were Dan Quinn, this is what I would do with the defense. I would play more man-to-man coverages. I would let Isaiah Oliver, if you're going to keep Isaiah Oliver on the outside, we need to let Isaiah Oliver play more press coverage, him and Trufant, because he likes those longer corners. Isaiah Oliver and Trufant are longer corners. So you put them on the line, you let them face guard these wide receivers, meaning you press up on them, you let them play physical with them. You don't let them get easy routes off the line, meaning to disrupt the timing of these throws, you need to press up on these guys. You need to get in their face and allow to the Philadelphia Eagles. Because if you watch the Philadelphia Eagles play, when they played the Falcons, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-2 right now. The Philadelphia Eagles are down like 3 or 4 corners on their team. And they're down to like their fourth and fifth corners on their team, because they lost so many corners this year. And their guys are not good in coverage. So what did they do to the Atlanta Falcons? They knew, okay, any team we play, not just the Falcons, but any team we play, they're going to expose our corners. So what does Jim Schwartz do with the Philadelphia Eagles? He brings pressure. He was bringing 0 pressures against the Atlanta Falcons. That's how we got that one screenplay. But one thing that I can respect about Jim Schwartz is he made adjustments. In that game, when he's seen, okay, Calvin Ridley's getting off, he's getting deep, everybody's getting deep, our corners can't cover, our secondary is suffering, so we're gonna have to bring pressure, and we're gonna live by the sword. Like we're gonna live by the blitz and die by the blitz. Meaning, since we can't cover these guys, and since we're not getting pressure with our front four, it's time for me to start bringing linebackers on blitzes. It's time for me to bring safety blitzes. It's time for me to bring corner blitzes, because we have to pressure Matt Ryan. Because we allow Matt Ryan to sit in the pocket, he's going to be able to complete passes with ease, and he's going to be comfortable. And what did they do? They caused Matt Ryan to throw a couple interceptions. The reason that Matt Ryan threw that interception when he tried to throw the ball down the field to Julio and the ball was short, is because he threw the ball off his back foot. And why did he throw the ball off his back foot? Because they were bringing that 0 blitz, and he had no time to step up in the pocket because they kept bringing that AA blitz and those 0 blitzes. So Dan Quinn needs to take a page out of the Eagles book and do the same exact thing. He needs to start bringing more pressures. We need to start blitzing, and we need to disguise our coverages more, because I've seen in that Eagles game and all these teams that play against us, they're doing all types of things. They're bringing pressure. They're dropping. Like I know on one play against the when we played the Eagles, they had one of their linemen drop off into coverage, and Matt Ryan almost threw the ball right to him. I believe it was Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox was on the line. They act like they were going to bring a blitz. Next thing you know, Matt Ryan's thinking, okay, they're in this zone. He tries to just drop it off in the flat. I think he was trying to throw it to like Austin Hooper or someone right in the flats. And Fletcher Cox just basically dropped the clean interception, because Matt Ryan wasn't expecting him to drop off right into the middle of the zone. He dropped off right in the middle, right in the soft spot of the zone, and almost picked Matt Ryan off. He just dropped the ball. He just happened to drop the ball, but he was in the position to make the play. And that's what I feel like with Dan Quinn. For the people that are upset with Dan Quinn, I understand, because in his scheme, to me, he's not putting these players that we currently have on the field right now in the best positions to win. He's just out there like, well, this is my scheme, and you're basically trying to fit a round circle in a square peg, and it's not going to work. Like, you can't force these type of players into playing your scheme. You have to see and adjust to what these players do best. Meaning, if Isaiah Oliver can't cover, if it is struggling and busting coverages, and they can't run that soft zone or that cover 3 or whatever he likes to run, We need to change up and allow them to run man if that's going to make them most comfortable. We need to start blitzing, like I said, because we're giving these quarterbacks too much time. I said in my last video, Deshaun Watson had a perfect passer rating last week. He was 28 of 33. So that means only 3 to 4 passes were dropped or were incomplete, were batted down. So that's basically 28 to 33, which means to me that these completions that these quarterbacks are making are way too easy, and they have way too much time in the pocket when they're throwing the ball. They're basically just sitting back. Okay, if you watch Deshaun Watson's post game press conference, he basically broke down our defense in a 5 to 10 minute setting in his press conference, and that's a shame. No quarterback should be able to just go in there and diagnose and break down every play, and pretty much all of their players were calling out Dan Quinn and calling out our defensive scheme, basically stating, oh yeah, we knew what they were going to do. We knew that when they did this, we were going to do this. And when they did that, we were going to do this. Nobody should be able to break you down like that. We're making it too plain. We're being too generic. We need to mix things up. If we need to run some zone blitzes, whatever we need to do to throw these quarterbacks off. Because most of the times when Matt Ryan is throwing a pick, or if you look around the league, when good quarterbacks make mistakes, it's because they're food. They walk up to the line and they expect a certain coverage, and then when the ball is snapped, a whole different coverage is presented to them, and then they have to make a quick decision on, okay, who's my hot route at this point, because the whole defense that I thought they were finna run before I snapped the ball is a totally different ball game now. And that's what the Falcons are not doing. We're coming to the line, we're showing, okay, we're in zone, and then we're sticking with that. And then so these quarterbacks and these offensive coordinators are too smart these days to allow us to just say, this is what we do, stop us. No, we need to switch it up. We need to confuse these guys. If we need to all come to the line, like we're going to bring everybody on the blitz and back out into a coverage, we need to mix it up. And it's all need to be done in one game, meaning we need to give multiple looks in one game. Because if you hear Matt Ryan and Julio Jones talk about why the offense was struggling, they talk about how other teams that we're playing on defense are giving them different looks. Like Julio Jones talked about it. I'm being doubled. We don't know what they're going to do. Sometimes they're in man, or sometimes they're in zone, or sometimes half the field they're in man. On the other half of the field, the secondary is in zone. So we have to figure it out. But on our team, I feel like it's just so generic that it's like, okay, they're showing zone and we're just sticking with that and saying, okay, beat us, doing our whatever we do best. No, we need to try to confuse these guys. We need to throw these guys off balance. We need to throw these quarterbacks and these offensive coordinators off balance, because they're coming into these games way too confident and ready to play our defense, because they already walking into a game knowing their coach is too stubborn to make adjustments. He's going to run they're going to run these certain coverages, and that's it. You don't got to worry about them blitzing. Take your time and pick the zone apart, because there's going to be soft spots in the zone, and you're going to have time to pass, because a lot of these quarterbacks we're playing are mobile. So even if we do get one-man pressure against some of these quarterbacks, they're able to escape that one-man pressure. Like, it was times where Deshaun Watson was on a run and Grady Jarrett broke through and was chasing him, and he was running around in the backfield. But the thing about it is, most of the time they know if you have an athletic quarterback like a Russell Wilson, like a Deshaun Watson, they're going to be able to navigate and escape a one-man pressure. We're not getting multiple. I haven't seen in the last couple games, I haven't seen multiple guys in the backfield where it's like the quarterback is surrounded. It's usually just mainly Grady Jarrett penetrate right up the middle, and they either breaking left and running and getting the first down by breaking left and running for a first down, or they're breaking right and they're looking downfield and making big throws, because Grady Jarrett, he can only chase these guys for so long, and most of the time they know it's rare that Grady Jarrett is going to catch them when they're backpedaling and they're running around, because it's still guys that's out. They still know that their offensive line is still in the game, and a lot of these quarterbacks are best at improvising. It's hard for the corners. Like, we're getting mad at the corners, but if you watch that one play against the Houston Texans where Desmond Trufant at the end of the game, when we needed to stop, he tried to cut off the short route, but Deshaun Watson had so much time and there was no pressure pretty much in his face. Fuller was like, his route was just to break outside, but being that the play took so long to develop, and he was covered, the outside route was covered, and there was no pressure on Deshaun Watson, he was able to just break his route off and run right up the field wide open. We was in man coverage, and it was an easy touchdown. So we, as much as you want to put the blame on Desmond Trufant, he shouldn't have had to cover that guy for 6 to 7 to 8 seconds, where Deshaun Watson's back there patting the ball and out there playing backyard football. Because a lot of these quarterbacks, if you watch them, they're basically playing backyard football against us. They're back there scrambling around when they are under pressure, and they're able to throw the ball downfield because there's no pressure on coming from our defensive line whatsoever. So the biggest misconception for Falcons fans right now is to jump on the secondary and say this secondary is terrible. But what you got to realize is they go in concert. They go hand in hand. If you're getting no pass rush, I don't care if you have Deion Sanders, Jalen Ramsey, the Legion of Boom, whoever you have. If you're not getting no pressure on the quarterback and you're giving quarterbacks all day to pass, these quarterbacks nowadays and offensive coordinators are too good in the plays that they're drawing up to allow you to stop them. They're not going to allow you to just rush forward the whole game and drop all your guys in the coverage in a zone and say, well, we're going to be stopped that way. No, because they're going to break their routes off and they're going to run upfield and they're going to go into the soft spot of these zones. And that's where the confusion comes in with the Atlanta Falcons players. That's one other thing I really want to talk about really quick. Another thing I want to talk about really quick is this secondary. Last week, we picked up Jonathan Cyprien. Why was he on the field last week? And it right off of just getting picked up. It was no way he was prepared. Because if you looked at Jonathan Cyprien, pretty much on every freaking snap he was in the game, he looked confused. He didn't know where he was supposed to be at. He was trying to figure out, okay, what am I doing? Him and Isaiah Oliver. Most of the defense is out there looking confused. The only person that's really not looking confused out there is Ricardo Allen. He's trying to direct traffic, but in the midst of him directing traffic and telling what guys where to go, he's trying to cover everybody. And that's another thing that I want to talk about. And I know I'm kind of ranting right now. Ricardo Allen. We need to get rid of playing all of this single high safety crap. We need to go back to playing two safeties back there and forget doing just single high safety only. I don't mind doing single high safety from time to time, but teams are exposing us deep when we're doing this single high safety. We need to stop dropping the safety in the box on every play. We need to start playing with two safeties back with KZ and Ricardo Allen. Rico needs help back there because a lot of these teams are going verticals and they're doing all of these routes, these deep crossing patterns. And until we can prove that we can get pressure on the quarterback, we need to drop both our safeties back so they can help cover with these cornerbacks, because these cornerbacks are getting burnt. And the reason that they're getting burnt is because our defensive line is not doing their jobs. They're not applying no pressure on the quarterback whatsoever. And when they do put a little bit of pressure on the quarterbacks are able to scramble out. So with Dan Quinn going forward, the way that we can fix these issues that I'm talking about right now is what I just said. We need to go back to playing aggressive defense. We need to start blitzing these quarterbacks. Stop giving them all day to throw. If you get burnt, you get burnt. Because this is my thing. We're getting burnt anyway. We're sitting back and playing four-man coverages. Bringing four-man pressures. Just trying to rush our front four guys and expect the guys in the back end to hold up. But they're not holding up. These teams are still getting explosive plays. Last week it was over 8 explosive plays, which was over like 20 yards or more on the pass. So if they're getting explosive plays anyway, why not try to heat their quarterback up? Bring pressure, because that'll eliminate these guys from getting these deep passes. Because when you're bringing pressures, those deep routes take too long to develop. By the end, the quarterback is already sacked or under pressure. He's not going to be able to get off a long, deep crosser or these deep post routes and these deep street routes if we're bringing pressure. They're going to have to start throwing off their back foot, and that means start bringing pressure with Deion Jones. Start bringing pressure with our linebackers, Foye Oluokun. Start bringing pressures with your cornerbacks like we used to do with Brian Poole. Bring a corner off the edge, bring them up, or even when you bring one of them safeties down in the box. When you bring them down in the box, don't just bring them down in the box to support the run. Bring them down in the box and let Cyprien go and get the quarterback. Because when you play aggressive, it eliminates all of this thinking. These players are doing way too much thinking, and they're not able to play aggressive football. They're not attacking the ball. If you watch our defense, a lot of our Falcons fans are saying this defense is soft. No, the defensive players are not soft. This defensive scheme is soft. When you play all this playing off zone coverage, where all these guys are playing 10, 8 yards off the receivers, For one, you don't break up the timing of the offense, meaning those receivers and the quarterback have a certain rhythm. But if you can break the rhythm, if you can get up there and press those receivers just a little bit, it'll slow them down. It'll help the pass rush because they'll give them a little bit more time to get to the quarterback, and it'll frustrate the quarterback because a lot of these quarterbacks like to get the deep ball. A lot of these quarterbacks don't like to do like the Patriots and nickel and dime you down the field. It's harder for a team to methodically throw the ball down the field and go 80 yards than for them to throw 150-yard pass and they're in the red zone. Because a lot of teams that are beating us, we're doing pretty good against the run in the first half of these games. It's just after time, the defense is getting wore down because the teams are building leads against us. And once they build the lead against us, it's pretty much impossible for us to come back because at that point, they're able to drain clock, and then the defense is not able to get any stops because they're tired. Because the turning point in the last game that we played a solid first half. But in the second half, those 2 or 3 three and outs in the second half really hurt us because we went 3 and out back to back, meaning the defense was only on the sideline for like a minute. Get a sip of Gatorade, get a little bit of oxygen, and then boom, they were back on the field because it was 3 and out, and Deshaun Watson then went down and scored. Boom, boom, boom. In the third quarter, 17-0 run. So a game that went from being 17-16 went to being like 30-something to 17. And that's the problem with this team right now. And so and another thing that I'm seeing from a lot of Falcons fans, you might dislike my page. You might want to unsubscribe to my page because you might think, okay, Jew is not keeping it real. No, I'm keeping it 100% real. I always look at the glass half full. I'm not going to come on my page and say this player sucks, that player sucks, fire this person, fire that person. No, I always look at the glass half full. It's a way to win these games. These games that we're losing are not impossible to win. That game on last Sunday, we could have won that game last Sunday. A lot of these games that we've lost, the game against the Colts, we could have won that game. That was a one-possession game. This game against the Texans, people look at where they scored 50 points. They scored that last touchdown at the end of the game when Matt Ryan was just throwing the ball and basically was just a miscommunication between him and Austin Hooper, which Austin Hooper was wide open. He just didn't turn around until the ball was already gone and had already been picked off. So if you really look at the game this last game, the last couple games that we've lost have been one possession game. The Colts beat us, I believe, 27-24 or something like that. It was a one possession game. And what happened? It was 2 minutes left in that game, and we couldn't get off the field on the defense. It was third down or fourth down. I think it was a third down conversion at the end of that game where they threw a quick out route to the tight end, and that pretty much ended the game because we had no more timeouts. So that was a one possession game. This last game against the Texans was a one possession game. If we made that stop, when they threw that ball deep to Fuller and he scored that last touchdown, they would have had to punt the ball back off to us, and Matt Ryan would have had a chance to go down there and tie the game because we was only down by 8 points prior to them scoring that last touchdown. So a lot of these scores can be misleading. The game last week was very competitive. You might look at it and say, no, it wasn't. The last week's game was a competitive game, and it was a winnable game. The game before that was a winnable game. So the only game that really got out of hand and wasn't winnable was the Vikings game. So anybody that's getting on my page talking about this season's over, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. No, a lot of these games that we're playing are competitive. It only been a few games this year. Like I said, the Vikings game got out of hand. That game was not competitive. We beat the Eagles. We came back. The Colts game was competitive. The Titans game was competitive. Oh, let me see. Was the Titans game competitive? No, I think the Titans beat us handily. The Titans beat us pretty handily. But that was the Vikings and the Titans games were the only games where we kind of got beat. But the Colts game was definitely a winnable game, and this last game that we just played against the Texans was both winnable games. The only 2 games that got out of hand was the Titans game. That game got out of hand, and the Vikings game got out of hand. And in the Vikings game, that game got out of hand early, and that was just a bunch of turnovers, a block punt. Those were things that we did to ourselves. But as far as us winning these games, anybody that tells me this team cannot make the playoffs or this team, if they make the proper adjustments is not a contending team, meaning this is a bad team altogether, I 100% disagree with you. This team is capable of winning. this team is definitely capable of winning, but we have to go out and make the proper adjustments. Now, if we don't make any adjustments and we continue to do the same thing week after week, of course, we might not win another game this season if we continue to say, okay, we're just going to run soft coverage. We're not going to blitz anybody. We're not going to allow none of these other players to play, such as Brian Hill, such as Quadra Olison, such as Jermaine Grace. If we're not going to give none of these guys a chance, Kendall Sheffield, Jordan Miller, it's time for them to start giving some of these other guys a shot. If these other guys are not doing their job, like Isaiah Oliver and Devondre Campbell, it's time to start mixing up these guys, meaning switching people in and out and letting us see what we have behind these guys in the reserves. Because I feel like some of these reserve guys could possibly do a better job at playing the role that Dan Quinn is looking for these guys to play. But I disagree with anybody that says Dan Quinn is a bad head coach. No, he's not. And that's the thing with a lot of these players that we saying are trash. Vic Beasley is not a trash player. You cannot be a trash player and lead the league in sacks. I'm sorry. It won't happen. And that's what Dan Quinn is trying to say and that's what Arthur Blank is trying to say about Dan Quinn. If this guy is a guy who led us to the Super Bowl before, it's no way that this dude is a horrible head coach. There's no way. I have never seen a horrible head coach make it to the Super Bowl. Never. And I've been watching football a long time. I've never seen a terrible head coach make it. Now, maybe a mediocre head coach, but how we talking about Dan Quinn, we act like Dan Quinn is the worst head coach the Falcons has had. Dan Quinn is a better coach than Mike Smith, believe it or not. Dan Quinn is a quality head coach. And trust me, if we were to fire Dan Quinn, another job came available, another job was vacant, trust me, Dan Quinn would get job interviews. Dan Quinn would possibly be hired by someone else. Trust me. If we fire Dan Quinn at the end of this season, trust me, this is not going to be Dan Quinn's last head coaching job. And the reason I say that is because look at his resume. His resume, he's above 500 winning. He's like 37-32 at this point. And he has a Super Bowl under his belt. And technically, anybody around the league knows the Super Bowl that we lost, really, we should have won. So a lot of people that want to put all this stuff on Dan Quinn and want to lay the blame at somebody's feet, want to lay the blame at Matt Ryan's feet, stop trying to lay the blame on one person's feet, because we're winning. We win as a team and we lose as a team. And like I said, a lot of the problems with this team that I'm looking at, to go back to the beginning of what I said in this rant or in this video, if you look at that 2016 team, a lot of the players right now that are role players are not playing their roles. And that's the main issue right now. That's the main problem with this team. And this is on all fronts, on offense, on special teams, and on defense. Guys, the secondary guys that are supposed to be doing their job, like a Devondre Campbell, like a guy, like any of these guys, like Cyprian, like Kamal Ishmael, these guys that are coming in, that's playing new roles, like Isaiah Oliver. A lot of these new guys that we brought in, a lot of these guys are not playing doing their job. And Ricardo Allen talked about that in his press conference, that dudes just need to start doing their job. Julio Jones said that. Dudes need to stop worried about other people's job and do their job. And that goes to show you that guys are not focused. Guys are not doing their job. Guys are trying to be heroes. Guys are trying to make plays. But sometimes when you're attempting to make a play, if you're not standing, keeping your gap integrity, if you're doing like Pat McKinley on a lot of these plays, when I see quarterbacks running all over us, him and Vic Beasley are not keeping contain on the quarterback. They're not setting the edge. They're not doing the small things. They're not doing the fundamental things. And the fundamental things is what helps you win in this league. We're not doing a good job up front of blocking for the running game. We're not creating holes. A lot of people want to say, okay, Devontae Freeman's lost a step, or Devontae Freeman is not a good player anymore. I disagree. I don't think that Devontae Freeman is the 2016 Devontae Freeman, or the rookie Devontae Freeman, or even the Devontae Freeman from a couple years ago before he got injured. Of course, he's not the same exact guy. He maybe has lost a little bit of his speed and a little bit of his agility, but he's still a quality running back. In a lot of these games, he's still an above average running back. If you look at a lot of these games, when he does get a crease, he still is able to hit the hole. He's still able to juke guys in the open field. The problem is he's being hit in the backfield. Most of the time he's being hit and contacted before he can even get to the line of scrimmage. So when you have stuff like that happening, no running back can do anything about that. I don't care if you had Todd Gurley back behind this line. If you cannot create holes, and if it's multiple guys in the backfield and behind the line of scrimmage before, like, he's getting hit before he even contacts the ball, before he even can get to the line of scrimmage, he's being contacted. I mean, what can you expect? You can't expect more than a 2 to 3 yard gain if your running back is getting hit in the backfield before he even gets to the line of scrimmage. And that's a lot of these runs. Devontae Freeman is juking in the backfield. Him and Edo Smith are trying to juke a defensive lineman in the backfield before they can even get through the line of scrimmage or get to the line of scrimmage. As soon as the ball is being handed off, it's somebody waiting in the backfield that they got to try to avoid to even find where the hole is. So with the offensive line, really quick before this video is over, because this is the last thing that I want to talk about, with the offensive line and the offense in general. This offensive line, I'm giving them a pass. And the reason I'm giving the offensive line a pass is because Dan Quinn did the right thing at the end of or in the draft by going and getting 2 offensive linemen, because our offensive line last year was atrocious. And this year, our offensive line has been average. And the reason that it's been a little bit better is because we picked up Caleb McGarry, who's looked excellent as a rookie. And he's probably going to be a Pro Bowl right tackle at some point in his career. And Chris Lindstrom, when Chris Lindstrom was in the game and actually playing, like in that Eagles game when he was there, Chris Lindstrom was playing solid when he was actually in there. So we got to think about this. Once we get Chris Lindstrom back, which he should be coming back, I believe, at some point in the season, if we can salvage the season and win a couple games until Chris Lindstrom come back, we'll be solid. If you look at this game against the Texans and if you look at this offensive line in general, the reason I say I give them a pass is because we can't keep a solid 5 guys on the field. Every single game we've had a different starting lineup. Every single game. Jamon Brown was out this game with a concussion issue. So we were out there with 2 backups. We're down to our third string guard, which is Wes Schweitzer. Wes Schweitzer is our backup to the backup. So he's like next man up, next man up. He's not even the next man up. He's the next man up. Because after Chris Lindstrom went down, it was Carpenter and Jamon Brown that stepped up. But then when Jamon Brown got hurt, we had to play Wes Schweitzer. And when I went back and watched last game, the first half, Wes Schweitzer didn't look that bad, to be honest. Him or Caleb McGarry. It was just as the game went on, as we stopped running the ball and stopped mixing the game plan up. And that's what I want to talk about Dirk Cutter. As the game went on against the Houston Texans and we started to drop back and pass because we got down in the third quarter, so we started to pass, stop running the ball. That's when the defense of the Houston Texans and J.J. Watt started to pin their ears back and start to just get after the passer. And why were they able to do that? The reason they were able to pin their ears back is because they got a lead. If they wouldn't have never got that lead, they wouldn't have been able to pin their ears back. And the reason that you can't just pin your ears back as a defensive lineman, and this is what I talk about keeping contained with Vic Beasley and with Tat McKinley and playing your keys, is when you're running the ball, a defensive line has to slow down on their blitzing. They can't just pin their ears back and go straight for the quarterback, because if you do, you leave holes and voids in the running game, where if we do a draw play and you rush right up the field and run right at the quarterback, you lose your angles and you create extra holes for the running back to run through. So in the last game, in this next game that we play, Dirk Cutter, he did, to me, a decent job in the first half. When I went back and watched the Houston game, he did a decent job in the first half of calling plays. In the second half, to me, he went away from his game plan. And that's because we got behind. And to me, you can't get away from your game plan. Even if we get behind in the first half, we need to still consider running the football. And the reason I say that is because you keep your offensive line fresh. When you run the ball, they don't have to keep dropping back in the pass coverage, because it's harder to pass block than it is to run block. When you're running the ball, you're aggressive. You're not on your heels. You're going at the defenders. You're running right at them. But when you're pass blocking, you're steady in backpedal mode. And once you start to backpedal and consistently do that, and the defense starts to gain leverage, and they were at home, the crowd was going crazy, they're already a step behind because they can't hear the snap count. And then on top of that, they can't even go at the guys and play aggressive because they're backpedaling the whole time. So they basically playing on their heels the whole game. And what we need to start doing as a Falcons team is start punching teams in the mouth early, and we need to put those teams on their heels. We need to play with a lead so we can let our defense start to pin their ears back, because every team that we play against, we're letting them keep their whole playbook open because they're able to run the ball because they have the lead against us. So they're doing everything against us. They're able to keep their whole playbook is wide open. They can run the ball. They can play action pass us because once they start running the ball and we see, oh, dang, we can't stop this run and our defense is tired, then when we do start to hug up on the offensive line and try to get these guys, then that's when they drop back and hit us for a deep one. They hit us with a play action. So that's what the Dirk Cutter needs to look at with this defense. On this defense, on this offense. On this offense, Dirk Cutter needs to start allowing our runs to set up the pass. Because if you watched last night's game, and I told y'all, I watch a lot of football. If you watched the 49ers last night and Kyle Shanahan, one thing that we really sorely missed with Kyle Shanahan was the way that he schemed runs, the way that he schemed wide receivers open. That was one of the main reasons that we had to let go of Taylor Gabriel, is because when we got Sark and we let go of Kyle Shanahan was one of the best offensive coordinators, and he's one of the best coordinators in the league at scheming guys open. If you look at the team, and I've seen a lot of guys breaking down tape and talking about the Atlanta Falcons, if you look at our team, we don't have a ton of guys on this offense running wide open. And that's because Dirk Cutter is not scheming these guys open well. And he's not scheming up good runs. If you watch the 49ers last night, the Cleveland Browns couldn't stop them from running the ball. They were running for 30, 40 yards a clip at different plays. I seen Breida was killing them. Tevin Coleman, which used to be a former Atlanta Falcon, they was running all over them. And they were doing all kind of different schemes. Running all kind of different schemes to get their guys open. Running that play action scheme. Running bootlegs. The things that Kyle Shanahan did, we sorely miss on this offense with Dirk Cutter, because Dirk Cutter is not being he's not being multiple. He's not being using any type of imagination on this offense. He's doing the same stuff. He's running draws and running the powers on first down. Okay, we didn't get it. Okay, we got 2 yards. Okay, we're gonna do something else. No, we need to mix it up, because if you look at that one play, that's why I say he schemed up a good first half, where he did that screen pass, like a little shuffle screen pass up the middle to Devontae Freeman. The Texans was not ready for that, because they was ready to bring pressure, and they just assumed, oh, okay, they finna try to run the ball. And then he hit him with that quick screen pass right up the gut, which the guards and the offensive linemen were out in front of Freeman, and Freeman showed you that he still knows how to read holes, and he still can juke guys in the open field when he gets the proper blocking and when the proper plays are being called. But a lot of the problems that Freeman is having in this run game is having, and even our passing game, is just no imagination. It's no fake jet sweeps. It's no, like, if you look at the one play last week, and I said he did an excellent job of scheming up the first half when he did the Wildcat, and he had Ito Smith on one side, Freeman on one side, and Muhammad Sanu in the middle playing the quarterback position. That's a good formation to go into, because you got Muhammad Sanu, who's has a decent arm and can throw the ball. He also can run the ball and is a physical with running the ball. And Ito Smith and Devontae Freeman are excellent pass catchers and excellent running backs. So it kind of threw the defense off of, when you're in that kind of formation, they don't know what you're going to get ready to do. They don't know if you're going to hand it to one of the running backs. They don't know if you're going to fake hand it off and run with Muhammad Sanu. They don't know if Muhammad Sanu going to play action pass it. So that's an excellent way of bringing a different type of scheme to try to get somebody open or to try to get yardage, because it's nothing that's given to you in the NFL. So you have to try to trick some of these defenses, these defensive coordinators and these defensive players. You can't just line up and say our guys are better than your guys and we're gonna beat you like that. No, because when Kyle Shanahan was here, we had just as many quality receivers as we had now. The only one we didn't have is Calvin Ridley, but we had Taylor Gabriel, who was also a speedster. And if you go back and watch that 2016 offense, Kyle Shanahan did all types of things with that offense. He ran 3 tight end sets. He ran 11 personnel with like the 3 wide receiver sets. He did a ton of different things to throw the defense off balance, and he did an excellent job, and he's still doing an excellent job now with the 49ers of scheming up good run pass mix, a good balance between the two, and running different plays out of the same formations to confuse the defense. You can't just, okay, we have the best wide receivers, okay, we can, and the best tight end, so we just gonna line up and beat you that way. No, these, like I said before, these defensive play callers and these defensive players and these athletes are too smart now just to allow you to say, we're going to line up normal and we're going to try to just beat you head up. You can do it occasionally. You can get away with that. But you're not going to be able to make a good diet of doing that. So we need to stop doing that. But like I said, I done ran it for about an hour. So I'm about to go ahead and get up off of here. But like I said, these are the reasons that the Falcons are struggling. I'm telling y'all. If we had the same guys we had last year on this defense, I'm telling y'all it wouldn't look the same. Even if we were running soft zone coverages, I promise you. If Brian Poole was still on this defense, if Robert Alford was still on this defense, we wouldn't be having half of the issues we're having. If Keanu Neal wouldn't have got injured, I promise you, this defense will look a lot better. So all of you guys who are ready to hand Dan Quinn his walking papers, it's not happening. I'm telling you right now. He's not receiving his walking papers no time soon. Even if he has a bad season this year, Arthur Blank likes Dan Quinn so much, he might end up keeping Dan Quinn a whole nother season. So y'all better just, if you want him gone, you better pray that Arthur Blank somehow, some way, just has his mind changes somehow, which I don't see that happening, because Arthur Blank has clearly came out and said we're not looking to change anything at this time. And I agree with Arthur Blank. Dan Quinn is not a terrible coach. He just needs to make some small adjustments. And we need to make, in this new next draft, NFL draft, we need to bring in the proper players, meaning we need to go ahead and beef up this defensive line, and we need to go ahead and get our offensive line healthy and possibly add some more players on the offensive line as well, because Alex Mack is getting up there in age. He's not going to play forever. And some of these guys that we have that's temporary, like James Carpenter, they're not going to play forever. So we need to continue to get younger on the offensive line, continue to draft more players. So as these players get older, they can go ahead and mentor the next up-and-coming player, like we did in 2016 when we brought in Dwight Freeney, Sean Weatherspoon. Those guys to go ahead and mentor these younger guys to get them ready to play. But like I said, this your boy Jew as always. It's not time to panic. I will be doing a video on our Atlanta Falcons later on in the week. We will be taking on the Arizona Cardinals this week in Arizona. We already are. I believe the players are already down in Arizona. They're going to spend a week together to try to get things figured out. And I think that's a good thing. These guys need bonding. These guys need time to figure out this new defense and this new defensive scheme that we're running, this 3-4. But like I said, this is your boy Jew. If you like this video, please like, please share, please subscribe. Please leave your comments below. If it's something that you want me to break down in a video, I definitely would love to break down any questions that you may have. I would love to answer some questions that you Falcons fans may have. But like I said, this season is still salvageable. We still can come back in this season. This season is not over. It's 11 games left. We haven't even played a single division game in the NFC South yet. And our whole division is up for grabs because it's a ton of injuries far as our quarterbacks in this NFC South division. And we all know Tampa Bay is always questionable. So if you're telling me that I don't believe we can beat the Saints, the Panthers, and the Bucks and right the ship, you must be crazy. But at the end of the day, this is your boy Jew. Like I said, if you enjoyed the video, please like, please share, please subscribe. Invite any of your Falcons friends to the channel. I want to thank everyone who have subscribed to my page, because I do it for the fans. I do it for you guys. And I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for you guys, and you guys support my page. So like I said, the goal is to get it to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the season, so I can go ahead and start doing live videos. Please, like I said, please tell everybody you know about the page. If you would like to donate to my channel and I'd like to prosper my channel, definitely reach out. Go ahead and shoot over to the Cash App. It'll be the $ Jew Talk Sports. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm also on Twitter. I don't tweet a lot, but I'm going to start doing more tweets. And I'm thinking about later on in the season, like maybe the Saints game or something like that, I might do a live stream on Facebook for all of my followers. If y'all want to hop on my Facebook page, you most definitely can do that. And my name is Julian Red on Facebook. So if you want to do that, hit me on Facebook. I definitely thinking about doing a live stream so I can go in and just talk to the fans during the game, see what some of you guys' questions are, because I love doing this. The Falcons are my team, ride or die, whether we go 11-5, 10-6, or whether we go and we don't win another game this season, go 1-15, I'm still here. I'm always gonna rep that Falcons Nation. I'm always gonna rep that red and black. I bleed that red and black, and I love my team, y'all. So y'all get with it or get lost. Like I said, man, this is what it's all about. This is where we find out who the real fans are. This is where we find out how good of a coach or coaching staff that we have. And this is where we find out how gritty these players really are. When adversity hits, let's see what these guys can do. All right, man. This your boy Juice signing out. As always, rise up. I hope you guys enjoy your Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of the week. And I'll holler at you guys. All right. Peace.